you've got a front row seat, and the Celtics last night seemed to lose their focus. There's no question about it in the fourth quarter. Am I picking up something from sitting on the couch that doesn't exist? But what can you tell me, Jeff?
Well, I really do think that the officiating, first of all, I have no problem with people scrutinizing officiating. They're out there, just like the teams. They have a huge impact on who wins and who loses. They're all highly compensated. They're the tops in their profession. So I think it's fair game to scrutinize them. But I do believe that teams and our league as a whole have allowed far too much confrontational and aggressive conversations. I do not remember walking onto the court and holding a conference at mid-court time after time. It's happening almost every time out. And I think for the Celtics last night, I think what they have to do is really ask themselves, does our constant complaining, discussion, however you want to term it, does it give ourselves our best chance to play our best game? And some guys can play very well running their mouth to the officials. Other guys can be distracted very easily. And so I think it's incumbent on the Celtics to really look at how their behavior is impacting their performance. In their eyes, maybe it isn't at all. Or maybe, as they study it, it's had an unnecessary negative impact on how they've played. But there's no doubt that you're picking up on something that's almost impossible to avoid. The every play complaints, the histrionics of throwing your arms up on every non-call, and I think it's a bad look for the NBA as a whole.
Well, I mean, and then sometimes when you do it all the time, it takes away from the moments where you're actually right.
Rich, I agree with that, and it's the same thing. And you mentioned flopping.
Yeah,
it's why I have no sympathy when floppers actually don't flop and don't get the benefit of the doubt. Because if I'm a referee and you're trying to trick me instead of play the game, I am going to be very leery of any contact because I know you're a known exaggerator, and you're gonna not get some calls that maybe you should have gotten just because you've tried, this trickeration on a nearly every play basis. So I have no sympathy. I have no sympathy for the chronic complainers nor the chronic floppers who don't even get the calls that maybe they should get.
Now, and I know I'm talking about the Defensive Player of the Year here, though, but do you think that's what happened last night when Clay had that wide-open three? It sure looked like he extended to shove Marcus Smart. He goes down on the floor, slides damn near to the paint from the three-point circle, and there's no call, and Clay jars an open shot. Did that happen last night, do you think?
I did not see the replay on that.
Okay.
So I didn't have it was right in front of us, so I was blocked from the view of the extension. But I've had a lot of people like yourself say it was clearly the extension of the arm. But I was privy to the timeout. Marcus Smart very respectfully and politely asked the official, about that play, and he said, "You flopped." And again, and this isn't a Marcus Smart issue, it's an NBA issue. I thought for a while the NBA had done a good job cleaning up the flopping. They started to fine. I haven't seen a fine of a flop in ages, and I think flopping again is making a huge comeback into the league. And I think our players are very intelligent. If it's not rewarded and it's punished, it will be eliminated. But if they can sucker officials into calls, they're going to do it. So I think it's really important that the NBA, particularly at this high level of basketball, you play basketball. You don't try to trick the officials.
Well, I guess, and then you can't blame Marcus Smart if he did ask that of the officials, and they're like, you flopped, and then he gets called for an offensive foul moments later when Jordan Poole wasn't even touched. I wouldn't blame him for losing his cool and something like that in that situation. And then, sometimes I'm just wondering when coaches use their challenges. Sometimes there's challengeable moments in the second and third quarter, and they hold it in their back pocket, right? I'm wondering what your 2 cents are on something like that, Jeff.
I never coached in the challenge era,
right?
But I think from what I've seen and talked to coaches about, they're going to use it on points scored that they can either get a bucket, and particularly maybe a 3-point, play, or they can take, points off. But I think a lot of guys like to try to hold it in case a star player later in the game gets a bad call, just sort of like what Steve Kerr tried to do with Draymond Green,
right,
preventing him from getting his 6th. I think they try to hold on to that. And I think, again, I think everybody would agree foul calls that don't lead to points should be reserved for the stars or high leverage situations.
Mm-hmm.
But I think most would agree if it involved points, even early in the game, you take it because you don't know if you're ever going to get to a late use of the challenge. You may not use it. I don't think Ime used his challenge last night. So there are varying thoughts, but I think it always involves stars and points.